Hey, I just want to welcome you guys to another edition of Woodcarvers Corner. Want to thank you guys for tuning in to our channel. Our numbers are growing steadily, and we thank all you guys that have been watching the stuff on wood carving. Seeing how it's getting so close to Halloween, the other day I was in the store and I saw that they had a bunch of skeletal type stuff, skeletons in the store. And I got to thinking, that would make a great thing to talk about on Woodcarver's Corner, especially if you're carving the human figure, or for that matter, any figure that has a skull or whatever. So I wanted to just talk about the relationship of the human skull with the faces that we carve all the time. And one of the things that I would bring to your attention, that if I was sitting here with no flesh on, that I would look a lot like this guy. In other words, it's like when you go to build a house, you have a foundation that you start from. And when I'm teaching realistic human face or figure, I usually go through talking about the bone structure and how the muscles and stuff on the face fit the foundation here. So this time I actually want to take you guys through carving a skull in wood. This would actually be more about practicing the shapes of the foundation of the face, which I have carved several over the years. I'm going to say at least 10 or 15. And I use them. And later in this video, I will show you where I've incorporated these into my artwork. So let's dive right into this, get going with this. And of course, the first thing that we would do, you guys, is some research. Let's start with an anatomy book. And of course, this anatomy book has horses, it has cows, it has all kinds of critters, monkeys. But here you might see a human skull right here. This is a good place to start, you guys, with a good picture of the skull. I have several anatomy books. The one page in this particular book I like is it gives an overlay of the flesh, but it shows the skull inside of the flesh, which is very important. Okay, let's do a little bit of drawing here, talking about drawings first, then we'll do some drawing. Now, I want you guys to take a close look at this particular picture. And I want you to see the layout of his temples in, his cheekbones out, his jawbones here. This drawing, I have them in the black lines here. Of course, he's got a headdress up on top of his head. But if you get to look at how I got the high cheekbones here, I got the jawbones pulled in, and I got the jaw jutting forward. And on almost every face that I do, you'll notice on Smiley here that I have the chin button accentuated on there. And I do that in almost every one of my human faces. So let's just do a little drawing here and talk about this. So let's start with the front view, you guys. Which is more of an egg shape. I think I've drew this in previous Woodcarver Corner stuff when we were talking about stuff. Let's also at this same time get us a center line kind of dotted down through here. Of course, I'm sitting to the side of this, so it may not be exactly the center of things. And now let's come over here and do a side view. One of the things that I always end up doing that doesn't seem right a lot of times when I'm drawing the skull and stuff is I don't get the cranium big enough quite often, which you need to work at that. And I'm not going to draw the nose all the way out. I'm going to draw a nasal spine here. And then the teeth area here, let's just say the mouth is going to sit in this area. And let's bring this jawline down. Chin button I just talked about, and the rest of this mound. Eventually these teeth would be sitting in this area here, you guys, and here. It's not an exact drawing of the teeth, but it's close enough for what we're after right now. Let's do a little research with Smiley here on our other drawing. Look how Smiley pulls in at the brow line a little bit. So let's pull this in some here. It's hard to draw and hang on to everything at once, you guys. All right, we pull our temples in, and when we pull the temples in, that brings us down to these high cheekbone areas. And so on your skeleton, I got Smiley right in the way. There's a reason why I call this guy Smiley, is when my youngest daughter was little, she used to come into my studio, and the one that I had in my studio glowed in the dark. And when she was little, she would come in there and say, "Daddy, he looks like he's smiling at me." If you get to look, and he kind of, a skull looks a little bit like they're smiling, you know. So we named him Smiley. But I'm going to pull in on the jaw lines here on my drawing, and then square up this jaw, pull this in, square this jawline up. Now, let's get our nasal spine, and let's talk about that. Right here in the center, about the center of my eyes, let's say, is where that nasal spine breaks away from the cartilage on your nose. So when I'm setting up these eye sockets, let's say this is our top brow right here. And I'm talking right here. See this brow line, you guys? All right, notice that I have a bone point right here and right here. If you guys reach up and feel, you'll feel that bone where it starts to square around to your temples. But the reason I'm pointing this bone out is look where the eye sockets end up at, just to the inside of that bone a little bit. So I'm going to draw me some bone points here, here and here. I just put them on there. I got my brow line in. And a lot of times I will draw almost like a pair of sunglasses here. Here. And let me move Smiley where you guys can see what I'm doing here a little better, hopefully. Like I said, it's a little tough to sit here and draw and hold on to everything. But this is pretty much what we're after. Now, there will be a jawbone coming here. Let's draw our chin button that I talked about. See here, we got the chin button thing going on here. If some of you guys carve human faces quite often, but you've never really carved the skull or studied the skull, I recommend that you do what we're doing today. We are going to carve a couple of human skulls today, and I'm just laying this out for you. Now, actually, his spine, nasal spine on Smiley is broken off. Um, he fell out of the car one time. I yanked the van door open, and Smiley fell out of the box and fell on the sidewalk and broke into like 5 pieces all over the sidewalk. And these 2 old ladies were walking down the sidewalk right as that skull fell out and broke. They looked at me like I was a mass murderer or something, you know. Yeah. But anyway, guys, these teeth will lay in here eventually. And of course, the lower bottom teeth, too. This is not the greatest drawing in the world. But, all right, this is kind of what we're after right here with our skull. Now, I was out in the wood pile while we were splitting firewood the other day. And this is a piece of aspen wood. And if you guys hadn't ever carved any aspen, it's really not bad carving wood. It reminds you a lot of basswood. It carves pretty good. Now you might notice I split it in 2 with the wood splitter, so I don't have the center of the tree in there. You see a dark line where the center of the tree was. So for a second, I'm going to lay this down where I can draw on it, you guys. But and not only that, look here, I got about 6 inches or more, a little more than 6 inches thick here. So I'm going to do the side profile here, and we're going to go out and chainsaw it out. Then we're going to come back and mess with the shape of the front after we once get the side profile in. And of course, you guys have heard me talk about the first rule of wood carving, or any kind of carving for that matter. And that is, you can take more wood off, but you can't put it back. So when you're first drawing in on something like this, draw everything big. Now keep in mind that this ain't a real nose all the way out there. It's just the skull itself. And this jawline. And the mound for there. And this. I'm going to say that should set in there fairly decent. Of course, the eye orbitals and sockets will be in this area, and the mouth and the teeth probably up more than what I just drew. Somewhere in there. I'll turn it where you guys can see. So our next step with this project is let's go out with the chainsaw and do a little bit of chainsaw carving. Chainsaw carving is an inherently dangerous occupation. I actually was a chainsaw carver for probably the first 10 years of my carving career. I'm pretty darn good at it. So I'm going to go out and just go around the skull. I probably will leave some hanging down stuff here to hold in the vise underneath here. If I wanted to, I could do a chest and everything else. But since we're just concentrating on the skull, we're going to go out and saw this piece of aspen into a blank to start carving on. Well, guys, I got a rough cut. You can see the back of my cranium here. I left room for my jaw and stuff down here. This will all have to be rounded up a little more. I could go again with my chainsaw some more. I'll probably pull in under this jawline some more, but I want to leave, let's say, enough underneath here for not only it to set on, but also to where I can put it in my vise. I'll probably go to my carving vise on the inside, which you guys have seen if you've watched this program before. I'll put some screws up in there. I'll get my center line, much like I just did in the drawing, and I'll start laying out everything. But I'll probably take a big flat gouge and just round everything off the best I can. Here and there. A little close on the cranium right in here, but not bad. I think I can pull that off. But I guess what you do at this point is you just keep getting smaller and smaller. But let's set this one off to the side for a second. And I actually have a piece of butternut over here. I am going to do the same thing with a piece of butternut. So I'm going to cut off a chunk of this butternut and do the exact same thing that I just did with that aspen, is begin to rough it out. And then the next time I talk to you guys, we'll start laying in the features, the face features and stuff.